Yeah.
I just keep forgetting.
Terry signed it, right? Yes.
He gets his brownie points.
Well, you've got, we've got 1 minute to go, so.
Thank you, Kirsten, for sending me that script. I'll hang on to that now in case anything ever happens that I have to take over at some point.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. We learned last time. That's good to know.
It's definitely more professional than what I would have come up with on the spur of the moment.
Well, it follows a pattern. It's just. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I'd like to start the meeting of adjustment, committee of adjustment. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? Hearing none. The adoption of the previous minutes. I know that they're abbreviated, but as such.
Also move.
You move, Linda and Lynn. So are there any questions or comments? All in favor? By the way, Ed is not going to be here today. Thank you. The business arising from the previous minutes? Hearing none, we'll go to the public meetings. I'd like to welcome everyone. We are here today to learn about proposals for a minor variance to the zoning bylaw and applications for consent applying to certain lands in the municipality of Mayford. I'll start by introducing the members of this committee and staff. I am Deborah Young, committee chair. Our vice chair is Linda Van Ulst. We also have Terry Williams and Lynn Whitbeck. Ed Ormsby is absent today. For staff, we have Kirsten Morris, who is the secretary treasurer for this committee and planner. Our planning staff in attendance include senior planner Margaret Potter, CAO and director of development services. Rob, is he coming? I don't see him. Oh, there you are. I apologize. And development services assistant Helena Fascinato. While this committee is legally required to make decisions that conform to the county and local official plans, the Planning Act and municipal policy and procedures encourage us to reach out to you, members of this community, to hear your thoughts about the proposed applications. Your constructive comments will help us learn more about your neighborhood, which in turn will help us to make informed decisions. Those who have pre-registered for today's meetings will have an opportunity to speak. You do not have to be solely in support or opposition. It is okay to share your thoughts about those elements that you do or don't like about the proposal and to ask questions as well. While the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to questions and comments raised, in some cases, we may need to have staff carry out research on the matters raised and provide answers or additional information to you following the meeting. Anyone who wishes to receive notice of any decision on any of the applications being heard today will need to contact the Secretary Treasurer by email at planning@meaford.ca or by telephone at 519-538-1060 extension 1119 to have their contact information added to the file for future notices. Okay, the first meeting. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act regarding a St. Vincent Concession 6 Part Lot 22, Reference Plan 16R-10001, Part 1, known municipally as 158425 7th line, in the former township of St. Vincent, now in the municipality of Mayford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 10 days notice as prescribed by the Ontario Regulation 20-96 to the Planning Act. Helena, Please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 10 days notice. Helena,
Yep, so this notice was published on June 7th.
thank you. Helena,
Can you
will
hear
you
me?
please, not well. Can you hear her? No,
I can hear her.
that's better. That's better.
Okay, so this notice was published on June 7th, 2021, giving more than the required 10 days notice.
Thank you. Would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal? Helena?
Yep, so application A05-2021 requests a variance to facilitate construction of a new accessory structure on the property. The structure is proposed to be located 49 meters from the front lot line on a 2.54 hectare vacant shoreline residential parcel. The application requests relief from provision 4.1.1.2 zoning bylaw 60/2009, which prohibits construction of an accessory building on a lot prior to the erection of the main building. Application A05-2021 requests permission to construct a 35.6 meter square storage structure with 3 walls and 1 open side on the lot where no principal building is located. The storage structure will be used to store a tractor and property maintenance equipment incidental to the upkeep of the property while the final design of the future new dwelling is completed. And
Thank
then
you.
for comments received.
Sorry. Go
So
ahead. I'm
Gray
sorry.
County had no, oh, sorry. Seems there's a delay maybe.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead, Helena.
So for comments, Gray County had no concerns with the application, but recommended that comments be received from the local conservation authority and that further environmental review be completed prior to construction of the main dwelling and associated servicing infrastructure. And then Gray Sable Conservation Authority had no objection to the approval of the application. The Historic Saugeen Métis also had no objection. The municipal bylaw enforcement wished to be notified of the decision of the application. And Enbridge Gas commented that they do have service lines running through the area and the applicant will need to contact them prior to any work being performed on the lands.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Thank you very much. Margaret, are there any additional comments regarding this file?
Good afternoon. Helena has summarized the request and comments. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. And the full request and analysis is part of the agenda. I'll just highlight a few points for the committee and those listening. The application A05 is under section 41 of the Planning Act, which grants the committee authority to grant minor variances. And the 4 tests of the 4 minor variants have all been considered. Given the size of the lot and the proximity to specialty agricultural uses, the accessory structure will not be out of character for the area, and the site plan demonstrates that the accessory building will be smaller than the future dwelling and planned as a component of the main residential use. Staff have found that the shed and the future dwelling can comply with the applicable setbacks and height standards for the shoreline residential zone.
Mhm.
And the subject lot, although not in an agricultural zone, is over 2 hectares in size and expected to have ongoing maintenance needs being that size. Staff are of the opinion that it is reasonable to approach this property in a manner that is similar to looking at a 2 hectare treed lot in the rural zone, where an agricultural building for maintenance purposes would be allowed in advance of the construction of a dwelling on the lot. This accessory structure is proposed to be quite small in size as compared to the future dwelling or typical agricultural buildings, and expected to only be able to accommodate storage space for the maintenance equipment. So in consideration of this, staff are of the opinion that the variance would facilitate desirable and appropriate use of the lands in a manner that upholds the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is minor in terms of impact, subject to the recommended conditions, which will be read, but specifically that the construction be in accordance with the drawings submitted and that the building not be used for human habitation.
Thank you. So may I, okay, has each person seen the property, and do you have any questions about your visit, your site visit? Okay, I have one question. I just want to make sure I understand this. So basically, the reason why it's not for human habitation is that there's no plumbing. Is that how we're controlling that? And there's only 3 walls. I know that there's only 3 walls. Can someone answer that? Is that basically right? Correct? Kirsten or Margaret? Somebody?
Kirsten?
Yeah, so I don't know, Margaret. You
That was what I got from it, was that it wouldn't be inhabitable because there's no, I mean, it's basically just 3 walls, right? And a
yeah.
roof. So
Yeah, it's just for storage. They're not proposing any plumbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I that just makes sense. I get concerned that people all of a sudden decide that they want to move in and then there's a fire, and I just want to be responsible on that one. Okay, that's good. Okay, I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. Is anyone available for this?
No one's here for this one.
Thank you. Are there any points that have been raised that anybody wants to ask about the committee? No? Helena, please provide us with the suggested decision and conditions of the variance, please.
So being that the 4 tests have been satisfied, the committee hereby approves the variance to zoning bylaw 60/2009 as amended to provide relief from section 4.1.1.2 to permit the construction of an accessory structure prior to the construction of a main dwelling on the lot, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the accessory structure be designed in accordance with the drawings submitted with the variance application, and 2, that the accessory structure not be used for human habitation on a permanent, temporary, or occasional basis.
Thank you.
And then the reason,
Go ahead.
And then the reason for decision is the committee is satisfied that the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance as noted in Development Services Staff Report ADJ 2021-01 and addendum.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I need a mover and a seconder. Linda is moving. Terry is seconding. Okay, is there any discussion on this? Okay, I call a vote on this. All in favor? Since there's no one here from the public, I don't think you need to discuss what happens from here, but there's what, a 20-day? There's a 20-day to appeal, correct?
Yeah, so notice will go out before the end of this week, and that will start the 20-day appeal period for the variance.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to the second public meeting. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act regarding Concession 6, Part Lot 18, Reference Plan 16R-90, Parts 1 and 2, known municipally as a 206034 Highway 26 in the former Township of St. Vincent, now in the municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 10 days notice as prescribed by Ontario Regulation 200-96 to the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 10 days notice.
Yep, so this notice was published on June 11th, 2021, giving more than the required 10 days notice.
I'm sorry, folks, I'm not there. Just one moment, please. Is my face there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you've given a 10 days notice. Helena, please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal.
Yeah, so application A06-2021 requests a variance to alter and enlarge the legal nonconforming use of the property addressed as 206034 Highway 26 by way of the Committee of Adjustments special powers under section 45(2) of the Planning Act. This property was previously zoned highway commercial C2 under the former Township of St. Vincent zoning bylaw 613 and was operated as a retail gas bar permitted by the C2 zoning. In 2009, the municipality of Meaford enacted a new bylaw, being the current zoning bylaw 60/2009, which rezoned the property to the rural residential zone, permitting residential uses. The gas bar use is permitted to continue to operate under the legal nonconforming use permissions of subsection 34(9) of the Planning Act, which provides that no zoning bylaw will apply to the lawful nonconforming use as long as the property, building, or structure continues to be used for the purpose for which it was lawfully used when the zoning bylaw was enacted. So as such, application A06-2021 requests permission to permit the property to be used as an auto parts retail store as an alteration of the previous legal nonconforming gas bar use. The application has been supported by a legal opinion indicating that the previous gas bar use is still considered legal nonconforming and that the alteration to an auto parts retail store is a more compatible use than the previous gas bar use. And then for comments, so there is a legal opinion provided on behalf of the applicant by Sheffield, Erskine, and Rankin, where they stated that they believe an entitlement to a legal nonconforming use can be established to allow the property to continue its historical commercial use, and that the property's continued commercial use would represent sensible land use planning. And they noted that if this is not correct, then the other possible option would be to rezone the property by way of an official plan amendment. Although they noted that they do not believe that this would represent the most just, expeditious, or least expensive means of reaching the desired outcome. And then Grey County also commented, and they suggested that comments be received from MTO as the only accessible point to the lands is off of Highway 26. And then the county also commented that a commercial business of this nature would likely be less impactful than a neighboring gas station. They also mentioned that the committee may wish to consider a condition requiring that the two lots merge as one. And then, so Gray Sable also noted that they generally have no objection to the subject application. And Jolly's Farm Toys, which is also on Highway 26, they commented that they also have no objection to the application. And then the municipal building department, they did note that there is a permit on file for an existing septic system, and that the septic system uses both lots. And they question if the lots would be amalgamated. And that's it for the comments.
Okay, thank you. Now, Margaret, have you got additional comments regarding this file?
Yes, as this is a little bit different than a typical variance, I thought I'd walk through a few of the key considerations. Helena has summarized the request and the comments, and the agenda includes the full report. But since that agenda went out and Kirsten has shared and Helena has summarized, an updated legal opinion was received from the lawyer for the applicant. And so going forward, with respect to this application, in order for the Committee of Adjustment to permit an alteration or enlargement of a legal non-conforming use, it must first be proven that the use of the property is in fact legal non-conforming. And staff accept the legal opinion provided that the gas bar use is legal non-conforming, and relying heavily on the intent demonstrated and the case law that we've reviewed, we accept that it can be considered continuous. On that basis, under section 45(2) of the Planning Act, the committee may consider an application to permit the use of such land, building, or structure for a purpose that, in the opinion of the committee, is similar or is more compatible with the uses permitted by the bylaw than the purpose for which it was used on the day that the bylaw was passed, and may permit the enlargement or extension of the building or structure, but no permission may be given to enlarge or extend the building or structure beyond the limits of the land owned and used in connection therewith on the day the bylaw was passed. The updated legal opinion addresses the limits of the lands, finding that both the parcels identified in the notice that was provided were used as the gas bar. And comment from the building division, as noted, supports this, as they indicate the existing septic system uses both lots. It is recommended as a condition that the parcels be merged, as they are continuing to be used as one parcel.
Okay.
Case law finds that a legal non-conforming building may be rebuilt as of right within the same footprint and at the same height and volume without planning permissions. Expansions are considered an evolution, which must be balanced against community impact. The test of a similar or more compatible use is also one of impact. The comparison in terms of planning purposes is one of physical, economic, and social impacts. A proposed use that causes less adverse impacts in terms of land use planning issues such as traffic, noise, or environmental impacts is likely to be viewed as more compatible compared to the existing legal non-conforming use. Specific measures of compatibility are assessed and outlined in the report. Being that immediately adjacent lands include rural highway commercial uses, staff are of the opinion that an auto parts retail store is considered to be as desirable and appropriate for the development of the land as the continuation of a gas bar use, and that a retail store would result in less impact on the surrounding neighborhood. Although the building proposed for the retail store is to be larger than what is considered the existing legal non-conforming gas bar building, the functional area of a gas bar use is much larger than the building alone and occurs largely outdoors, whereas a retail activity is largely indoors. Based on the nature of the two uses, the retail store is found to be less impactful in terms of traffic, noise, nature of the use, and environmental impacts. And staff are of the opinion that the committee may permit the proposed automotive parts retail store, as it constitutes the enlargement of a building for a use that is more compatible with the uses permitted by the bylaw than the legal non-conforming use of the lands. And we recommend approval subject to the building being in accordance with the sketch, and that any expanded parking or loading be located on the west side of the building. So that would be adjacent to Jolly's rather than being adjacent to adjacent neighboring residential uses.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I cannot see you folks. So I've been trying to find a way to do that. I'm gonna have to ask Linda to take over the meeting because I can't see, I can't do anything. I can't take notes
Deborah,
because I can see. Pardon?
Can you try changing the view up in the top right-hand corner? It says view. If you click on that, you might be able to switch it around.
No, it's like they want, I've been trying to, all I can do is join another meeting, but I can't see the word view, but I'm trying everything else to get on, and I haven't been able to, so I don't want to hold up the meeting.
Okay.
So I'll be here to vote. Oh, I'll vote by, you can see me, right?
We can see you, Deborah. Can you not still do the meeting if we, if we just
Okay.
verbalize everything back to you?
Yes. Okay. So each person has seen the subject land. Does any member of the committee have a comment with respect to their site visit and with respect to the application?
No.
No. It's Terry. I have one question.
Go ahead, Terry.
Assuming that the land had remained vacant for another 10 years, for instance, would it still qualify under continuous use? Is there a time frame associated with this?
I can attempt to answer that if that's
Yeah.
okay with the chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So looking at all of the case law that we've reviewed for this application, the intent seems to be paramount. And in this case, and so the time limit is not as important as the intent. And through the legal opinion provided, I think we would look at every case individually. But in this instance, with the legal opinion provided, it seemed very clear that they were intending to continue to use it as a commercial use. And I don't know the exact laws around gas tanks, but I do understand that if they're being unused, they have to be removed, regardless of whether, and a new gas station were to buy the property in the future. It's going to, I don't believe they're allowed to just sit there.
Okay. Does that satisfy you, or that sort of makes me concerned? Terry,
Well,
what do you?
It satisfies me in that sense. I mean, I further read in the report that the gas tanks have been removed, but for anyone to put a residential building there, an additional environmental assessment would have to be completed. So I can't honestly see it being used as a residential lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it won't be used as a residential lot, is that correct? I need
Since
a
you can't
plan.
see me, are you looking for a planning answer?
Yes.
The proposal is for an auto parts retail store with no residential component.
Right. So that's the bottom line. There will not be a residential component ever.
No, not without a different application.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Terry?
Yes, fine.
Good. Did you have something further to say?
No.
Okay. Okay, that's good. I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. Are there any members of the public available?
Brian Thornton, I am the applicant. I'm not sure if it's now you want me to talk.
Well, if you'd like to speak with the, like to say something to the committee.
I have only a very minor thing. It is our intention to amalgamate the two properties together. The sale of that property takes place this Friday, and as part of that sale, it is our intention to amalgamate the property.
Okay, so does that matter go to the council, or does it come back to us? Kirsten or Margaret?
So yeah, that will be a condition of that's what we've recommended as a condition, is that the properties are amalgamated into one,
Okay.
under
Okay,
one
now I
ownership, and that will take place based off of Mr. Thornton's lawyer's recommendation on how to do that.
Okay. Okay. Okay, is there anything else that you would like to say?
Nope, not at this point.
Okay, are there any points raised that the applicant, committee, or public would like to say? Helena, please provide us with the suggested decision and conditions of the variance.
So the suggested decision is the committee hereby approves a variance pursuant to section 45(2) of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP 13 as amended, to permit use of the land, building, or structure for an auto parts retail store as a purpose similar or more compatible with the uses permitted by the bylaw than the legal non-conforming gas bar use, and to allow the auto parts retail store use to be enlarged from the previous gas bar use, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the two parcels comprise the development, being pins 37106-0057 and 37106-0058, be merged together and consolidated on title prior to issuance of a building permit, utilizing the variances authorized herein, and that this decision with respect to expansion is based on the sketch provided with the application, and that any expansion of the parking or loading areas be located on the west side of the building. And the reason for decision is the committee is satisfied that the application meets the test of a variance to alter and enlarge a legal non-conforming use under section 45(2) of the Planning Act as noted in Development Services Staff Report ADJ 2021-05.
Okay. Would someone please be a mover?
I'll move.
And somebody to second?
I'll second.
Is there any other question? Any questions or comments now?
I do have one question.
Yes, go ahead,
as
Terry.
usual.
Well, it's good.
Assuming this is approved, is there anything that would prevent Mr. Thornton 6 months from now or 6 months after the store has been opened to suddenly put it up for sale and put another retail operation in there?
Could one of the planning people speak to that, please?
I can attempt to. It's Margaret speaking.
Thank you.
We wouldn't have anything to keep them from selling the property. That's not under the purview of the planning division. However, the minor variance is specific to the use as an auto parts retail store.
Does that satisfy you, Terry?
I guess, Margaret, my comment was related specifically to that. When you read the recommendation, it says for an auto parts retail store as a purpose similar. So I was just concerned that it might open it up a little bit more.
I see Rob, so perhaps he has something to add.
Yeah. I think it's very specific that by allowing it as an auto parts retail, that's the extension of the legal non-conforming being granted by the committee. I think if there was to be sold to someone else for another type of retail, we'd have to go back through this test of another legal non-conforming use and whether it's compatible or not by the scale and nature of it. So I think by virtue of the wording of the decision limiting it to that, I think we are protected in that regard.
Thank you.
Okay, now are you all right with that, Terry?
Yes, I am.
Okay, are there any other comments? I'd like to call the vote now. I'm voting in favor of it.
I'm in
Yes,
favor.
In favor.
So that has been moved. Could someone explain to the applicant exactly what will happen now? I'm back. I don't know how that happened.
So notice will go out later this week, and that will begin the 20-day appeal period for it.
Okay. So, Mr. Thornton, is that all right with you?
That sounds good for me. Yes.
Okay, I apologize. I don't know. Hand me a piece of technology and I will break it every time. So I apologize that I was absent for a couple of minutes. Thank you very much you can carry on listening to us if you wish, but thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next meeting is the meeting of, this is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding Concession 7, Part Lot 24, Reference Plan 16R-8831, Parts 1, 2, and 3, known municipally as a 265-766 25th Side Road in the former Township of St. Vincent, now in the municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days notice as prescribed by Section 53-5 of the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 14 days notice.
So this notice was published on June 7th, 2021, giving more than the required 14 days notice.
Thank you. Helena, please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal.
Yep, so application B04-2021 requests municipal consent to sever a vacant parcel of land measuring approximately 1,990 square meters in size with approximately 36 meters of frontage on Side Road 33 and approximately 55.3 meters of frontage on Gray Road 15. Application B05-21 requests municipal consent to sever a vacant parcel of land measuring approximately 1,990 square meters in size and approximately 36 meters of frontage on Side Road 33. The retained parcel of vacant land will maintain an area of approximately 2,248 meters squared with approximately 30.8 meters of frontage on Gray Road 15. These existing lots were once two separate lots, however, have historically merged on title inadvertently. Therefore, the applicant requests to create 3 total lots from the merged parcel. And then, so for comments received, so Grace Harbor Conservation Authority had no objection to the application, as well as Bell Canada, Hydro One, and the Historic Saugeen Métis. They also had no objection. Enbridge Gas did comment that they have service lines running through the area and that the applicant will need to contact them prior to any work being performed close to their services. And then Municipal Building Department noted that there is no record of an existing septic system on the lands and that there are no concerns at this time. Municipal Transportation Services approved the proposed entrances so long as Lot 1 entrance is located to the eastern side of the lot to not interfere with the intersection. And Grey County reviewed the water supply and sewage system assessment reports provided and believed that development can be accommodated provided the reports are implemented. Therefore, they have no concern so long as the D-5-4 and D-5-5 assessment reports are incorporated as part of future development on the lands. And then there are also 3 residents who submitted comments as well. So Eugene, just to summarize briefly, Eugene Bogan commented that he does not agree or support the proposal and expressed his concerns over the environmental impact of wildlife and foliage on the lands, as well as some concern about large equipment that is currently on the lands. And then Charmaine Peaver mentioned her concerns about water supply and questioned whether 3 new wells on 3 new lots would create further issues with the water supply in the area. As well as Diane Waterton expressed her concerns with the water supply and the possible interference in the well supply. She expressed that they do not want their well supply compromised and her concerns for the installation of 2 to 3 septic systems as the area is bedrock with little soil, as well as the potential for traffic flow issues in the area. And that's all the comments that we've received.
Thank you. Kirsten, do you have any further comments for us?
Yes, thank you. I was just going to kind of summarize some of the key points out of the staff report and hopefully provide some responses to some of the comments received on water supply and quality. So this application was originally circulated for the May 26th committee of adjustment meeting that was canceled due to technical difficulties. And we were actually going to recommend deferral of the application based on the original county comments received, which had recommended that confirmation be provided that the proposed development can meet the provincial D54 and D55 standards. And those are guides for land use planning authorities to use in order to determine how to decide whether on-site sewage systems are appropriate for new development. And that assesses water supply for developments on individual private wells. The rescheduling of the hearing until June gave the applicants time to respond to the county's comments, and they obtained an engineer to complete an assessment regarding the site suitability for private well and sewage services. This assessment finds that the proposed lots can be developed using on-site sewage systems and individual wells with no impacts or interference with existing lots if a specified tertiary sewage system is used with enhanced nitrate removal above 21%. And based on those findings, staff have recommended as a condition of consent that a consent agreement be completed and registered on title, which includes these D54 and D55 assessment undertaken by GM Blue Plan Engineering, to act as notification of the requirement that the recommendations therein must be followed to the satisfaction of the municipal building department prior to building permit issuance and in regards to the use of the tertiary systems on the individual lots. In regards to water supply, there were a number of wells in the area that were included in the review, which were on the lower end of well yield. However, the report concludes that there is considerable supply in the overall aquifer to be able to support 3 additional wells. And if after installing new wells, the yield is not sufficient, peak water demands can be met through addition of storage systems. So basically, the study concludes that it is reasonable to expect that the lots can be developed using on-site sewage systems, being the tertiary system, and individual wells with no impacts or interference with existing lots in terms of water quality and supply. The county, as Helena mentioned, has updated their comments based on the findings and have indicated that the study satisfies their original concerns regarding the water quality and supply, and they have no further concerns with approval of the applications. So based on all of that, staff are comfortable with recommending approval of the lot creation as applied for, subject to the conditions that have been identified. And as we now know that all of the policies of the official plan can be addressed for a lot creation in the rural settlement area, which include the lots being able to accommodate individual on-site septic systems without affecting water quality of neighboring lots, the lots being able to be serviced by individual wells without affecting quantity of water for neighboring lots, entrances being available for all 3 lots, building envelopes being available, and Grace Obel has also identified that there are no environmental constraints. Yeah, so other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Each member of the committee has seen the site, so does any member of the committee have a comment with regard to their site visit or with regard to the application? Terry.
When I looked at the Ontario groundwater website, and it listed all of the wells, how recent is the data that's there? I mean, it says the data is 2021, but does that apply to the existence of wells or the values that are shown for each of the wells? Do we know?
I unfortunately don't know the answer to that. I don't know if Rob or Margaret, I don't think, we don't know what that's based off of.
I believe the applicant's engineering consultant may be on the line and may be able to answer that question.
Is that Matt or is that Chris?
It's Matt, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're the engineer?
that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah, my name is Matt Nelson. I'm with GM Blue Plan.
Mhm.
So to answer your question, the information that's provided with regarding the well, so the MOE well database, is information that was recorded at the time of drilling. So it will vary in age. So some of it might be 20, 30 years old, and some of it might be 1 or 2 years old. It depends on.
Yeah, and that was my concern, that when you look at it, most of these wells are, and the data that's shown is quite old. And I'm just wondering what's happened over time. Obviously, some of the residents are concerned because of the number of, there's growth in the area and additional wells.
Yeah, so I can speak to that. So the information at the time of well drilling is actually the most important in terms of the overall aquifer condition, because well performance can deteriorate over time from multiple factors. But in these particular areas where we are in the Queenston Shale, so in Meaford we have multiple locations over towards the lower east of Meaford, the north parts along the coastline, and even north of Annan, it's worse. But the aquifer system typically has quite a bit of water. So when we talk about interference effect from overuse, that will cause an overall lowering of the water table. And I think that's what you're talking to. In this particular case, it's actually a different reason why people have poor well yields. And that's because the bedrock itself that the wells are drilled into have a low permeability. So the water, it's hard for the water to get from the bedrock into the well. So there might be lots of water in the overall system, or we actually know that there is. And what's happening is that it's just not getting into those each individual wells. And one good way to show that is the contrast in supply. So where a well is drilled and intersects lots of fractures or larger fractures, then you'll get a very high yield. And where there's not any fractures, or the well's shallow and doesn't intersect any fractures or secondary porosity features, it will have perhaps a poor yield.
Does that answer your question, Terry?
Just one supplemental question.
Of
Do
course.
we know if any of the wells in the area are such that the flow rate is too low, that they have to have secondary water storage?
Yes, there are, based on the ministry guideline for what an adequate use is, there are wells that have documented yields that are lower than that supply rate. Just personally, I know of, again, north of Annan in particular, the yields appear to get worse, and it's not uncommon for people to use a storage feature. When well yields are close but below peak demand, people can often overcome that with additional pressure tanks. So if they use larger or multiple pressure tanks, and where yields are very low, some people will have a supplemental cistern system that they use. So that's quite common in the Queenston, again, where people have water supply in the Queenston Shale.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? No. Linda, you had a question.
Well, I was just going to say, so according to the official plan, this type of development is what they're looking for, right? To fill in urban areas that we have already.
Yeah, so infill development is supported by the official plan in the rural settlement area, as long as the lots can be serviced appropriately by private services, so septic systems and well.
So so according to the
course.
information we got today, that was sent through, then, who was that from, the county or conservation? That those 3 lots, then it would still, depending on the type of septic system they put in, but the wells would be no problem.
Yes, that's what the report did find, the assessment found. And staff are confident in that, in those findings.
Okay, is everyone satisfied? Oh, Lynn.
I'm not sure if there's an answer to this, but how come it started out as 2 parcels? I mean, at some point, somebody decided that a parcel should be so big, and now somebody has changed their minds and they want 3 out of the 2. So I guess my concern is, way back when they decided that that was an adequate size, and now that's changed.
Okay, Chris?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Young. So to the committee member, that is correct. So this property originally was 2 lots, but when ownership is taken in identical ownership, the title will merge.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, so you understand that. And
Yeah.
so at some time in the past, you know, for example, and Matt can speak to this better than I can, but there has been I'll say a progression in terms of the tertiary septic systems, and also probably better systems in terms of storage of water supply. So in years gone by, just a standard class 4 septic system was all that we had to rely on. Now there are better systems that are in place to ensure the effluent is meeting the ministry requirements. And as a result, subject to implementing the recommendations in the GM Blue Plan report, which the municipality is going to ensure, as I understand it from Kirsten's recommendation, that there be an agreement registered on title, we will ensure that those systems are constructed before a building permit is issued. So there's just been an evolution, I would say, in terms of particularly septic effluent that allows us to put essentially more building, in this case, 1 more dwelling on the same area of land, and ensure water supply and septic effluent. Matt, maybe you have some additional comments?
Matt, go ahead.
Thank you. To build on that, and I think to also answer the question from my perspective, is it's quite common actually that historic lot sizes didn't reflect actually environmental sustainability. So the whole lot sizing process sort of developed in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And I've been involved in lots of projects. In particular, it's usually the opposite, that the old lots can be quite a bit smaller than the new lots. So especially in hamlets, we'll often see lots that wouldn't be approved under today's standards. So to answer your question, I don't know when those lots were formed, like the sizing of them approved. If they were approved through like a subdivision or study process, I think Chris Pidgeon's comments would apply. But if they were pre-1990s, and usually back, you know, I've seen hamlets where they were lots formed in the turn of the century. There was an environmental consideration. It was more a matter of property severance and just size in terms of farm, like associated with farm lot and then hamlet. So that's been my experience, but not as a planner. Sorry.
So is that answering the questions that need to you, Lynn? Are you satisfied with that? No, you're not.
Yeah, I'm concerned that once there was 2, now there's going to be 3. I'm just concerned about the density, that's all. I understand that we are supposed to be doing infills, but that seems a little overkill.
Okay. Is anybody, okay. I think that we've had all the questions. Linda, do you have any further questions? Terry?
No,
Just one question
Go ahead,
again
Terry.
on the water. I understand how you can show compliance on the D54 for the sewage and septic system. How would you show it on D55, in terms of water supply before you actually drill a well or build?
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead, Matt. Mhm.
yeah, so the compliance is through the desktop review. So there's multiple components and scope, if you will, on a D55. The desktop review provides the first level of indication or certainty. So if there's enough data in the area that suggests that there is supply, then that's our first indication. And then the second, if that were to indicate significant issues or a probability of supply issues, then the next stage would be the drilling. So a test well drilling. In this case, the wells would, under the regulation now, when a well is installed, the driller does a pumping test. And from that, they'll know. So the wells are drilled by licensed drillers, and then as part of that process, they do a short-term pumping test, and they'll estimate the yield and provide a recommended pumping rate. So at that moment in time, then they'll know what they're up against. Often nowadays, they can also decide at that time if they want to drill deeper or drill if they want to augment the hole in order to increase their yield as well.
Rob, would you like to say something?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Just speaking back to Lynn's question and density in hamlets. If we were in the urban area on full services, and we're working with Chris on some other applications where density has nothing to do with servicing, it has all to do with character. But in the hamlet area, really the planning position has always been is that capacity to deliver services really drives the density in those areas. How much you can put on is really factored by the servicing aspect. And that's how we've historically dealt with the density in our hamlet areas, and by setting, even in the rural area, it's really tied to that. So I just wanted to highlight that as an overall approach, how we deal with density in the hamlet areas. I think it's important to understand that.
Thank you, Rob. Is there any other question? Okay, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor?
Can we hear from the public first?
Oh, I apologize. I apologize. I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. Is there anyone from the public here?
Mute. Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button. My name is Charmaine Peaver.
Yes.
I own a property on Side Road 33. I don't know if the well that is on that property is actually listed on your site, and I don't understand a lot of the technical things that were said today. That home is occupied by my disabled sister. That's why the property was purchased for her. In 2018 or 19, I'm not sure exactly what, there were a number of new homes built at the other end of Side Road 33. And their well building and so on had an impact on my sister's well. And we are living in a continent-wide drought right now. And it is going to continue. And I share Lynn Whitebeck's concern about the 3 lots. I understand that we have a housing crisis in Grey County. I know that we need more places for family. I'm concerned about putting too many homes into an area where people are already experiencing problems with their wells. And one of the things that I think he was an engineer, Matt, said, well, people are using additional cisterns, or they're putting in water storage facilities, which is all an additional expense to the existing homeowners, which is being done so that someone else can make some money. And I understand that's a part of it. We need to infill, we need to have homes. People don't buy and build without a desire for making a profit. That makes sense. But if it comes at the cost of the people who are already living there, I mean, I looked up storage tanks and they were talking like $10,000 to dig a deeper well. I'm talking $20,000, $30,000. We don't have that kind of money. You know, my sister's been on disability for years. I'm a retired pensioner. You know, we don't have that kind of money to put cisterns and secondary water supplies and deeper wells in. So, and there's no opportunity. I don't hear anything coming down the pipe about municipal services. If there were any municipal services on that lot, I would have no objections. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to comment on that? Matt?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate those comments. And I think I would just hopefully can further clarify, because I've dealt with several communities that have a similar scenario with poor yield. And I do want to reiterate that the yield in these aquifer systems that have poor yield are not because of typically, or that I've seen, are because of competing water use. They're because of the fact that the actual bedrock system has poor yield. So when you have a tight formation, when you have a formation that does not provide water easily into the well, so the water doesn't flow from the bedrock into the well very quickly, then the actual radius of influence that you have is very small, because you'll have a very steep drawdown curve or a radius of influence. And that aquifer system is actually getting recharge from a very huge area compared to the number of users on it, and particularly in Annan and another system that you're probably familiar with.
Matt, sorry to interrupt you, but could you explain some of the things that you just said? Like you were talking about the aquifer is being replenished. How is that happening? Because we're in a drought. The Great Lakes are going down, even across the American Southwest. I mean, we are in a multi-decade drought continent-wide, and this is going to get worse as things get. It's just going to get worse over the coming years. So explain to me how the aquifer is being refilled, please.
Yeah, so the actual aquifer system gets replenished by rainfall. And the recent rainfall amounts, not this spring, but overall in the last 5 years have actually been quite high. But even at their lower rates, we aren't in an arid region or a region where the runoff and the evapotranspiration is greater than the actual precipitation amounts that hit the ground. So we're actually, in terms of...
Let me repeat that back to make sure I understand. So what you're saying is that the precipitation, the rain, the snow that comes down is greater than what we are losing through evaporation and water usage?
That's right.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
very much higher. And we have some, just south of Annan and throughout Georgian Bluffs and Meaford, where you're in the limestone bedrock, for example, there is significant water supply in the same kind of density or even smaller density of like a higher density hamlets and villages like Flesherton, all these areas. And that's because just the bedrock's different. So their actual, the actual amount of water in Gray and Bruce is actually, and compared to the use of people is very, it's just very small compared to the overall aquifer systems. So there is a—
So Matt, so what you're saying is that through your professional opinion is that in the Gray Bruce area, there is enough water in the aquifer to support not just the people who are currently residing on it, but that we can increase our population and our draw on the aquifer because in the Georgian Bluffs and Meaford area, there is enough water in the aquifer to support us and more. Is that correct, what you've said?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's site specific.
But my experience has not shown that when, and what I'm going back to is 18 or 19, I can't remember which year it was, they built additional houses at the other end of Side Road 33. And it did have an impact. And I don't understand how, if we are in a drought, I know that so often rain comes all around, it doesn't hit Annan. We talk to the other residents. People are having an issue. And you already said that people north of Annan, in that same northern Annan, still have to build in a auxiliary water storage tanks to keep themselves going, which comes back to my original point. If there's another drain on the system, are we going to have to find the thousands of dollars necessary to do that?
So sorry, and I'm trying to clarify. So the reason why they need the cisterns isn't because the water's not in the ground. It's because they aren't able, the water doesn't flow fast enough into their well. So the actual shale system that's north of Annan that I was talking to, there would be, if you drilled down deep enough, there would be lots of water in that system. It would be saturated bedrock conditions. There's just no fractures for it to flow into the well because the bedrock doesn't have fractures or any kind of features that allow the water to move through it. So
you'll have to drill down deep then, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yes. Or there's you can use a wider well diameter, but often at that point it's more cost effective for the cistern. So the need for a cistern isn't because of how many people are using it. Those properties might be in the middle. They might not have a neighbor for 500 meters. The fact they need a cistern isn't because their neighbors are using so much water. It's because it's just the nature of the bedrock having poor yield. So I'm trying to differentiate that for you. With respect to your observations, I can't speak to those. I could
it's not
say
scientific.
Yeah, and I could say, and I could talk to the owner and Chris Pigeon just on the spot here and see if there someone could monitor your water levels as part of the development and ensure that that there's no impact. Is another method perhaps that we could mitigate that concern. But
hey, John, what I'm going to do, thank you very much. And I do understand your concerns. I'm just, I'm concerned about, is this really, does this committee,
right.
Should we
Thank
be
you,
monitoring?
Chair. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't want to ignore you. I'm just trying to figure out what the best way to go about this.
I appreciate your interest and concern. Thank you.
You're welcome. But okay, so Kirsten or Margaret, do you have some way of I gather what Matt's saying is that, is there a way of having an agreement or before the buildings are built, or what exactly can be done in this situation, or should we be the ones doing it? Is this something that the committee should be looking at when making a decision about this?
I might see if Rob has any suggestions here.
Do you see what my problem is, Rob?
Yep. So
I want to hear I want to hear what, what the applicant's neighbors are concerned about, but I don't have an answer.
yeah. So we've already mentioned that we're going to have an agreement registered on title in relation to the septic. We can include provisions in there to assist in well monitoring. It's been offered up by the applicant. Chris can confirm, but we can include that within that same agreement because it's registered on title, in that they've offered so that it can be monitored. We've done that in other situations. We did it for the glamping proposal where they will be monitoring things. So similar approach.
So this isn't a new problem. This is something that has been discussed?
Not regularly, but it's something we can incorporate for sure.
Okay, now does that satisfy the people of the committee when making a decision on this vote?
Before you do that, Jared, maybe just ask Chris to confirm it's something that they would be willing to.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, he's been nodding all the way through this, so I'm going to, sorry, Chris.
Chair, just to confirm, water monitoring is not an uncommon requirement. So I would say, given what we're hearing about the water situation in Annan, that would be fine to be included in that agreement. I did have one other question. And for staff, I thought it was going to be covered, and I shouldn't have assumed that. So in looking at the area, there are 6 lots in immediate proximity to the 3 lots proposed to be created. They are the same size, or actually those 6 existing lots are probably about the same size. There are larger lots, of course, in Annan as well. We have a 5-meter wide road widening on the county road, and I thought that would be a condition of approval, but I didn't, unless I missed it, I didn't see it.
Yeah, the county actually refused the road widening at this time. So I don't know why, but that's what they put in their comments.
So we've shown it on our consent sketch as a 5-meter wide road widening that would go to the county, but there was no condition to implement the widening. That's really my question.
Yeah, so yeah,
There's
no condition.
to that, please. So at this time, nothing is happening, but what about in the future?
I think what Chris is saying is that they showed it. We expected the county to require it, and I assume, Kirsten, the county didn't ask for it?
Yeah, they didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
They said, yeah.
So if they don't need it, I'll take it to my next point. If they don't need 15 feet, we'll add the 15 feet back to the lots. It actually makes them larger. That was where I was going with it.
Yep. So let's see what they said. So yeah. Transportation management has declined the daylight corner widening at this time.
Oh, okay. Very good. So the lots are going to be larger for committee members.
You're not going to put another house there.
No, Chair, we will not. Not on a 15-foot wide strip.
Okay. It's just, people are concerned, that's all.
Understood.
Okay. So now, are the questions answered that need to be answered? Has somebody got a concern about voting now? Okay, no one's saying anything, so I'm assuming that you're going to say that you have no concerns. Oh, here we go again with me losing. Okay.
Linda
okay,
has a question.
Linda,
just
I'm sorry,
have-
Linda.
I just have one comment, which I probably shouldn't say, but gosh, isn't it a shame that the water didn't come up to Annan instead of stopping at Leith?
I was actually thinking that, Linda. When Linda and I were on Sydenham Council, we wanted it to go up to Annan, and the people didn't want it to go up to Annan. So interesting how history comes back, doesn't it? That's why I get very, I get cautious sometimes about certain things, because I think, oh, 15 years, someone's going to say, well, it's going to create a problem. Anyway, so are we ready to vote? Oh, Kirsten.
Yeah, we need to put some wording into the condition for the monitoring, the water monitoring.
Yes, go ahead.
So I don't know if anyone has any suggestions, Rob?
So can you read out the current condition in relation to the agreement?
So yeah, that a consent agreement be completed and registered on title, which includes the D54 and D55 assessment completed by GM Blue Plan Engineering, dated June 21st, 2021, as a schedule to the agreement, to act as a notification of the requirement that the recommendations therein must be followed to the satisfaction of the municipal building department prior to building permit issuance, and in regards to the use of tertiary sewage treatment systems with enhanced nitrate removal of at least 21%.
So at the end of it, we would put and well monitoring. And I don't know if you want Chris to explain, to elaborate on that, and the well monitoring
Of existing wells. And that a methodology be submitted to the satisfaction of the municipality of Meaford.
Yes.
I hate to ask this question. I have to bring up money. I'm assuming this is going to be at your expense, Chris?
Yes. Absolutely.
Sorry.
At the expense of the applicant owner.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Kitchen.
Okay, do you want me to read
I
it
don't like
again?
surprises. I'm sorry. Kirsten,
Do you want me to read it again?
please.
Okay. So that a consent agreement be completed and registered on title, which includes the D54 and D55 assessment completed by GM Blue Plan Engineering and dated June 21st, 2021, as a schedule to the agreement, to act as notification of the requirement that the recommendations therein must be followed to the satisfaction of the municipal building department prior to building permit issuance, and in regards to the use of tertiary sewage treatment systems with enhanced nitrate removal of at least 21%, semicolon, and well monitoring of existing wells, and that a methodology be submitted to the satisfaction of municipality of Meaford. Does that work?
Can we put something in about the distance of well monitoring?
What do you mean by that?
Of existing wells within.
Exactly,
okay.
so many feet, so many, I don't know, whatever would be acceptable, whatever you would think would impact other people's water.
Matt, do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, I would suggest 250 meters. Yeah. Now, just for clarification, it's only people that will, it'll be when we've done these, it's obviously has to be on a voluntary basis. So just for the committee's clarification, our standard application of this process would be, that's typically for large subdivisions, but we would do a quick water well survey just by delivering notices to people's doors that are directly in the area, and then get a response. And then we would, if they want to be involved in the program, we would go visit the house and check their water levels. And in this process, because it's water quantity, that's what I would recommend. It would be a water level. So how much water is in their well with the seasons. And we would typically implement that program for up to 2 years post-development. Just to double check that there's not interference. And then usually we would submit a final letter to the municipal, to the building official or the town, and then for completion.
So if we could add for a distance of 250 meters from the property for a period of 2 years post-construction.
1 second, I'm just going to type it out. And well monitoring of existing wells within 250 meters of the property for a time period of 2 years post-construction.
Yes.
And that's a okay.
Want to read what's after the the colon, and it will go from there?
Sure.
Because I gather everyone's okay with the information before that, right? Okay, we're going to accept that. Okay. Go ahead.
So it'll be and well monitoring of existing wells within 250 meters of the property for a time period of 2 years post-construction, and that a methodology be submitted to the satisfaction of the municipality of Meaford.
Yep.
Before they start, we have to agree on how the monitoring will be done, correct? Before they start?
Yeah, it'll be actually, that details will be part of the agreement. So
Okay,
that's how it would be
thank you.
agreed upon. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does anybody else have a question about anything else? Are you ready to vote? Okay, all in favor?
I don't think, did we bring it up?
Sorry, pardon me. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm sorry, I'm presumable today, it seems. Okay, now, so there's no further questions. Helena, would you please provide us with a suggested decision and conditions of severance for the consent application B04-21?
Yeah. So the decision will read, the committee in reviewing the subject application determined it to be compatible with the area, consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the Meaford official plan. Thus, the application is approved, subject to the following conditions. Payment of cash in lieu of parking dedication for the severed lands, and that a consent agreement be completed and registered on title, which includes the D54 and D55 assessment, completed by GM Blue Plan Engineering and dated June 21st, 2021, as a schedule to the agreement to act as notification of the requirement that the recommendations therein must be followed to the satisfaction of the municipal building department prior to building permit issuance, and in regards to the use of tertiary sewage treatment systems with enhanced nitrate removal of at least 21%, and well monitoring of the existing wells within 250 meters from the property for a period of 2 years post-construction, and that methodology be submitted to the satisfaction of the municipality.
Now do we have another, it says at the top, B4 and B5? So,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're two separate, so we have to
Yes.
vote on each one separately. So this is
Okay.
B04.
okay, so may I have a mover, please? Linda? Second? Terry? Any further comments? All in favor? It's carried. Is it going to be the same for 05?
It will be the same,
Elena?
yeah.
Okay. So I guess we should read it out. Kirsten?
The suggested decision for B05.
Yes.
The
Kirsten,
committee
you-
in reviewing this,
Oh, okay, go ahead.
the committee in reviewing the subject application determined it to be compatible with the area, consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the Meaford official plan. Thus, the application is approved, subject to the following conditions: that a consent agreement be completed and registered on title, which includes the D54 and D55 assessment completed by GM Blue Plan Engineering and dated June 21st, 2021, as a schedule to the agreement, to act as notification of the requirement that the recommendations therein must be followed to the satisfaction of the municipal building department prior to building permit issuance, and in regards to the use of tertiary sewage treatment systems with enhanced nitrate removal of at least 21%, and well monitoring of existing wells within 250 meters of the property for a time period of 2 years post-construction, and that a methodology be submitted to the satisfaction of the municipality of Meaford.
Any questions or comments? Okay, may I have a mover, please? Terry. Seconder? Linda. Okay, any further comments? All in favor? It's been passed.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you all
Matt.
very much.
Thank you. Hello, thank you very much for participating. Okay, now. So the last part is this is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding Concession 7, Part Lot 24, Reference Plan 16R-8831, Parts 1, 2, and 3, known municipally as 265-766 25th Side Road in the former Township of St. Vincent, now in the municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days notice as prescribed by Section 53, subsection 5 of the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 14 days notice.
So this notice was published on June 7th, 2021, giving more than the required 14 days notice.
Thank you. Would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
Yep, so application B06-21 requests municipal consent to sever a vacant portion of the lot known municipally as 265-766 25 Side Road, measuring approximately 6 acres in size for the purpose of addition to the adjacent southeast parcel known as 158-522 7th line. The lot addition will result in the enlargement of 158-522 7th line for continued agricultural use and will maintain a total amalgamated area of approximately 33.8 acres. Application B07-21 requests municipal consent to sever a vacant parcel of land measuring approximately 50.9 acres in size with approximately 672.8 meters of frontage on 25 Side Road for the purpose of lot creation. The retained parcel of land with existing dwelling and agricultural buildings will maintain an area of approximately 54.4 acres with approximately 277.2 meters of frontage on 25 Side Road. The proposed consents will facilitate an enlarged lot for continued agricultural use, as well as an additional lot created for continued agricultural and future residential use. It will be recommended that as a condition of consent, a consent agreement be entered into and registered on title to limit site alteration until such time that an environmental impact study is completed to address preliminary comments from the Grey Sabal Conservation Authority submitted with the applications in regards to the identified significant woodland features on the new lot. And then for comments, so Grey Sabal Conservation Authority had no objections provided the consent agreement be entered into and registered on title. And then Bell Canada, Hydro One, and the Historic Saugeen Métis had no objections to the application. Enbridge Gas commented that they do have service lines running through the area and that the applicant will need to contact them prior to construction on the lands. And the Municipal Building Department noted that there is record of an existing septic system on the lands and that there are no concerns expected at this time. And the proposed lot lines will respect the building code setbacks from the existing septic system. And the Municipal Transportation Services had previously approved the entrance. However, they noted any alterations will require sightline and grade. And then Grey County. So Grey County originally recommended deferral of the application in a comment dated May 21st, 2021. And in more recent correspondence with Cuesta Planning and staff, they noted that they are satisfied with the drawings provided by the consultant and that the 3 parcels will effectively achieve the county's special agricultural policy, such that the severed and retained parcels have an agriculturally productive area of no less than 10 hectares in area. Further, the county noted that they are satisfied that unobstructed access to the south end of parcel 3 can be achieved without having to use adjacent lands. And that's all for the comments.
Thank you. Okay, Kirsten, do you have any additional comments about this?
Yes, thank you. I was just going to summarize some of the key points in response to some of the county's original comments on the application. So in regards to the lot addition being proposed, application B06-21, the property is designated special agricultural and rural, but the special agricultural policies are pretty strict in terms of only being permitted to create lots that have an agriculturally productive area of at least 10 hectares. And in some circumstances, minor boundary adjustments where no new lot is being created can be supported. So this application was also circulated for our last meeting, and we were going to recommend deferral, as Paulina mentioned, based on the original county comments received. So the original circulation included a tillable area on the lot along 7th line that's resulting from the lot addition to be 8.94 hectares, so a little bit under the 10 hectare requirement. And the applicant in the past month has updated the mapping that they provided to show that the lots resulting from the lot addition will include 9.95 hectares, which is not the 10 hectares, but being that it's a lot addition, it's closer to what would be required for a new lot to be created. And so county and municipal staff are satisfied that the lot addition meets the intent of the policy for a minor boundary adjustment, which does end up actually increasing the tillable area on parcel 1, so the lot on the 7th line. And then for the proposed lot creation, so B07-21, the application proposes to sever a 20.62 hectare parcel with 11.4 hectares of tillable area. So that meets the requirement for the 10 hectare tillable area of the special agricultural designation. And then I was just going to say that based on GSCA comments received, we've recommended a condition of consent, that a consent agreement be entered into and registered on title to limit the development within the significant woodland and 120 meter adjacent lands on site until an environmental impact study is completed to the satisfaction of the municipality of Meaford and the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority, demonstrating a number of specific things that the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority wanted to include. And Helena will read that in the suggested decision. So basically, based on further discussion between planning staff, the applicant, and county planning staff, as well as the updated planning report and mapping provided by the applicant, and the recommended conditions, staff are confident that the special agricultural policies and natural heritage policies have been addressed and are recommending approval. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Okay. Each member of the committee has looked at the site. Does anyone have a comment or question about their site visit? No? I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. Is there any member of the public who wish to speak?
Yes, Genevieve Scott from Questa Planning Consultants.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Young. First of all, thanks to Kirsten for outlining the, and Ms. Fascinato for outlining the proposal itself. And going over the changes that have occurred since we received the County of Grey comments with respect to the application. I don't really have too much further to add than what Kirsten has already gone over. We have one agricultural lot that will be newly created, and we have a small lot addition to an existing agricultural parcel. So it's a fairly simple application. I'm happy to answer any questions that committee members may have. Just add one thing with respect to the Conservation Authority comments. We have no concerns with respect to registering an agreement on title in regard to requiring the natural heritage assessment be completed prior to any further development on the site. Currently, the new lot will only be used for agricultural activity. So until such time as development occurs, it makes good sense to leave it a little bit later on, as natural heritage features can change and morph over time. So it's better done during at a later time when development will occur. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Does anybody have a question or concern? No? Well, thank you very much. If you want to continue listening, we'll continue.
Thank you.
Okay. So there's no other comments that anyone wishes to make at the moment. Okay, Helena, would you please provide us with the suggested decision and conditions of severance on consent application B06-21. Please.
You're
I can't
muted,
see.
Helena.
Helena, you're muted.
Sorry. Sorry about that. So there will be two decisions similar to the last application. So decision B06-2021 will read, the committee in reviewing the subject application determined it to be compatible with the area, consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the Meaford official plan. Thus, the application is approved, subject to the following conditions: that the severed parcel arising from the consent be permanently merged on title with the abutting parcel, and any mortgage on that lot be extended to the enlarged parcel, and that the lot addition resulting from the severance be generally as shown on the sketch submitted with the subject application.
Thank you. I now call for a motion on the decision as read by Helena. A mover, please. Lynn. A seconder. Terry. Okay. Are there any comments, any further comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Now, there's going to be an appeal period. Could one of you explain that to Ms. Scott, please?
Yep. So
Go ahead.
Helena, you're the last person who spoke. Go
All
ahead.
right, so notice will go out later this week, and then that will begin the 20-day appeal period.
Oh, we didn't do 07, did we? Did we do
And then
07?
we still have B07
Okay,
as well.
thank you. So it will go out by the end of the week? And there'll be
Yes, yeah.
how many days?
The 20-day appeal period.
Thank you. That's what I'm, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Scott. You can continue listening if you wish to. So we're finished with the public meetings. Is there any other business? Oh,
We have
sorry.
to vote on B07,
07.
Heather.
well, that's what I was wondering. Okay. I thought, I wasn't sure if we had done it, but I wasn't sure. Carry on. Let's try B07.
All right, so the decision will read, the committee in reviewing the subject application determined it to be compatible with the area, consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the Meaford official plan. Thus, the application is approved, subject to the following conditions. 1, payment of cash in lieu of parking dedication for the severed lands. And 2, that a consent agreement be entered into and registered on title to limit development within the significant woodland and 120-meter adjacent lands on site until such time that an environmental impact study has been completed to the satisfaction of the municipality of Meaford and Gray Sauble Conservation Authority, demonstrating A, no negative impacts on the woodland feature nor its natural functions, or until such time that the zoning mapping is updated by the municipality through a general amendment to establish appropriate restrictions. And B, a building envelope for any future buildings or structures which maximize protection of any natural heritage features and protection of the tillable area to the extent possible. C, the location of any accesses between tillable areas for agricultural purposes which maximizes protection of any natural heritage features and protection of the tillable area to the extent possible. And D, terms of reference details as agreed to between Gray Sauble Conservation Authority, the applicant, and the municipality of Meaford prior to the study commencing.
Okay. Thank you. May I have a mover, please? Linda. Lynn, for second. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor? It's been carried. So once again, the notice will be sent out by the end of the week and 20 days for the appeal period, correct? I may learn this. I apologize. For some reason, my computer has decided to be really temperamental. And so when I touch it, it seems to take the, go on to another screen. And I'm not quite sure. That's why I got a little pershimmeled today. I apologize. Okay. So do we have any other business to deal with today? The next meeting will be July something.
28th.
28th. Have there been any applications yet?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Okay. That's good.
We'll have a meeting.
I'm going to make myself a desk so that I'm not putting things on my computer and all of a sudden disappearing. Okay, then I'm going to call this meeting adjourned. Oh, sorry, Terry.
Just a question. Has council considered when they will stop insisting that all committees meet virtually?
That's a great question for Rob.
Hi, Rob.
Hello. So right now we know, because council actually doesn't meet in August, we know that we are going to be meeting virtually through July. We're going to evaluate in August, and hopefully back in September, we will be back in person. So that's our sort of current game plan. Yeah.
Okay. It is easier for the public that wants to
100%,
participate
yeah.
and comment if it's in person.
I totally agree with you. Yeah,
It's easier for me too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob.
I mean, I have such a host of things that I can mess up and add technology in there. Okay, well, so
Yep.
can I call the meeting adjourned? Good. Thank you, one and all.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next month.